125350. On phone on. What up, man? Now we gonna talk that real shit. Real shit.
What is going on, people, and welcome back to another podcast. I am your host, JONETH PIPTNE. Just make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Just keep this channel growing. I'm trying to get to about 500 subscribers at least by the end of the year. So just keep subscribing and keep liking and just keep this channel growing. I deeply appreciate it. And now to officially jump off the podcast, I'm going to jump it off by straight up saying, what does 2021 hold for our Chicago Bears? Now, of course, we know how the last few seasons ended, 8-8 and 8-8, going to the playoffs last year, and then losing to the New Orleans Saints 21-9. But with this season, with Justin Fields coming in, we're just going to see how this really going to pan out. And basically, you're not supposed to rebound right away after missing on a top-tier quarterback like Deshaun Watson and even Patrick Mahomes, even though no one really looked at him at that time. But it is what it is. And the time and the kind of lofty investment necessary to even hope that a young signal caller succeeds means that you're often back at square one when he doesn't. Your entire roster was tailored to his abilities. The championship window that you thought was wide open was only cracked open because he was at his most affordable while still gifted. When that falls through, you're picking up the pieces, wondering where it went wrong, and you're thanking your lucky stars you still have a job. Sometimes you do get a second win, regardless of how you feel about who was at most fault about the Mitchell Trubisky era not panning out in Chicago. Launching someone into the fold like Justin Fields right away is not the norm. Franchise regimes are toppled for less than what happened with Trubisky. And when there aren't, there are almost never finding such hopeful, stellar, immediate replacements. When the Bears open the 2021 season this September, I, Jonathan Hampton, as you all know as JONETH PIPTNE, will be looking forward to watching how they develop Fields. When he starts, what will they basically throw at him? Where he excels at, where he struggles? When has that first wow moment validating his position as the new franchise savior? When he frustrates and makes everyone remember that, yes, he's still a rookie. These 4 months are all about Justin Fields, the steps he takes forward and backwards, and the vaults and the progressions that he makes to go forward, basically. I don't expect the Bears to be a legitimate contender in 2021. I don't think they're ready to play and hang with the heavyweights around the league yet. They have too many flaws up front offensively and the defensive back end for me to take their January and February prospects seriously. But for the time being, Fields can make them relevant and fun. He can inject incitement into what was going to be a transitional year anyway before his arrival, and he probably will. But now it should be considered beyond foolish to get emotionally invested in a Bears quarterback. Years of what could have been, should have been, basically. But never was, have left countless scars on a football city that quite frankly is at its wit's end when it comes to the most important position in American professional sports. But I don't get the same nervous feeling with Fields. I didn't have to talk myself into him after the Bears anointed his services. I didn't have to ignore any obvious blemishes on the sparkling resume or see any cracks in a charming, confident demeanor. Fields feel like the real deal, an actually big boy quarterback prospect that the Bears haven't had the luxury of developing in decades. If he fails, it's never going to work out for a quarterback for Chicago. Something tells me the Bears won't be at square one again in 4 years. Something makes me believe I won't have to worry about a drastic scenario of failure. And we all will see the start of something of a great story this off season. Now, a lot of people may hear me say that, but like, man, that's not the same thing you were saying in your predictions. But keep in mind those were earlier predictions that I did make, and I'm actually just reevaluating more and more as the season go on. Even though the season hasn't started, as time basically goes on, and just think about how everything is right now. So I'm still trying to put everything in full perspective, and hopefully I am wrong. And with this Bears team, even before Justin Fields get in there, they can make some people shocked. They can upset some of these teams and be in a pretty decent position before Justin Fields come in and starts. Now, if Andy Dalton comes in and play basically just like Mike Lennon, then the Bears is going to be in a pretty bad pickle, just like it was when Mitchell Trubisky showed up in 2017. But hopefully that is basically not the motherfucking case. Because if it is, we putting Fields out there when he's not ready, much like we did Trubisky, and just throwing him out there and just seeing how everything works out. But the difference is that the defense, I believe, is slightly better than it was in 2017, even though they still was a top 10 defense. And on top of that, the offense has a better offensive line than it did in 2017. I'm projecting that the offensive line will be better than it was in 2017. But we also know that they have more weapons. It's just not Jordan Howard running the ball football all day with a sprinkle of Tariq Cohen. It's going to be David Montgomery, Damian Williams. Tariq Cohen's coming back. They got other guys coming in. Goodwin coming in, Allen Robinson coming back, Darnell Mooney in his second year, Cole Kmet in his second year, Jimmy Graham returning. You have a lot of guys that's really going to be very good out there. So hopefully that does pan out for our Chicago Bears in the long run, and especially this season. Because a lot of people is predicting that the Bears at best will win 6 games, and I just really cannot see a team that had the potential of winning 10 to 12 games last year that just really couldn't get it together, of course, with the quarterback change and also incompetent play calling from Coach Matt Nagy, who is once again taking over play calling this year. So hopefully all of those variables turn into a positive, at least be at par enough that the team can win more than 6 games, and make sure that us Bear fans know that this was not just a transitional season. This was a good season, and things can turn out very well for our Chicago Bears, and even shocking everyone and still making the playoffs. So hopefully that does work out for our team. And if not, then all we can do is just say wait until next year and hope that all the players that is on this roster this year, at least majority of them will be able to be re-signed or still be available with us the following season. So let's just hope that pans out. And now moving on to the next story. And the next story of the day, people, is about David Montgomery and the message that he has for the people in the league, especially his haters, that he is going to make all of y'all pay. Now, David Montgomery has been basically playing lights out since he came to the league. Of course, we know in 2019, the offensive line was just straight trash, and he wasn't used properly until late in the season, and he still had a very good stat line. And I believe that David Montgomery is going to be even better this year unless there is an unfortunate injury. And the reason why I say that David Montgomery could have an even better season this year unless an injury does happen It's because he is coming off an impressive sophomore season where he rushed for 1,070 yards despite not being featured in the offense until the final half of the 2020 season. Montgomery is tied for fifth in rushing yards in the NFL that season, and also his 1,508 scrimmage yards was also ranked fifth in the league. A lot of people didn't even know that, and they trying to say that he's trash or whatever because he's with the Chicago Bears. But people that is not Bears fans, that's something that you definitely needs to know. And still, that hasn't stopped people from overlooking exactly what he's capable of heading into his third season. And Montgomery is fired up about proving those doubters wrong. In a new mic'd up clip from the offseason workouts, Montgomery is overheard chatting with his head coach Matt Nagy, among other things. Montgomery noted how he is made for Sundays and how he wants to run the football, something that the Bear fans smile after it took Chicago a half a season to finally unleash David Montgomery last year. But one of the things that Montgomery's fired up was the disrespect from those ranking him among the bottom half of the starting running backs in the league. And he directly called out CBS Sports for ranking him 25th in the league. And Montgomery has had a message for the haters who doubt his talent. It's cool because guess what? Montgomery said at the end of the year, I'll make y'all pay. And that's exactly what I think that Montgomery is going to do. He's going to make sure that those haters pay. And he's just going to be excellent this season, basically. He's going to dominate this season. And I believe his yards from scrimmage is going to go up substantially more. I say 400 yards more if the Bears feature him much like they did with Matt Forte before him. And even a little bit with what they did with Jordan Howard, just also not just running the football down the throat because he can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. Now, David Montgomery is primed for a breakout season in 2021, even after his impressive 2020 campaign. There should be a focus on getting Montgomery more involved on offense, especially when it comes to running the football. And listening to Montgomery say, I'm made for Sunday, it's hard not to get fired up for what he can accomplish this season, especially when Montgomery believes that he can be even better than he was than his dominant stretch in the second half of the 2020 season. Now, he did state that it wasn't enough for me last year, just knowing the untapped potential that I had within myself. Now, that's something that he said earlier this off season. And I just believe that, yeah, he's fully capable of being a dominant player. And I believe that he's going to show that to the NFL. He showed it last year, and for some reason the fact that he was ranked 25th 25th best running back in the league after finishing fifth, and not only rushing yards but also scrimmage yards, should be outlandish as hell. You know, the fact that CBS Sports, who seems that majority of the time they can't get shit right anyway, along with Pro Football Focus. You know, I know Pro Football Focus ain't shit because they had Charles Leno Jr. as being one of the best run blocking left tackles in the league when he was just trash all the way around. You know, that should let you know that these guys don't know what the hell they talking about. They just look at stats or whatever. They don't even watch film and actually see what's going on out there, because if they did, David Montgomery should be at least top 15, if not top 10, going into this season, just based on the production that he did last season and his sophomore season. And that's with having only 8 games to do the majority of the damage that he did. He did all of that in 8 games. He rushed for like 700 plus yards last year, got majority of his rushing touchdowns in those 8 games last year. And that means, guess what? The first 8 games they wasn't using him, and he still finished with 1,070 rushing yards and with 1,508 yards from scrimmage. That should tell you something. Now, us Bear fans, we already know we got another very good running back in David Montgomery. But it's the rest of the league, and especially the haters, that need to be put in their place and be put in perspective that what he's going to accomplish this season. Like I said, fingers crossed, unless he gets injured, he's going to be dominant all season, especially if the offensive line show up like they did much in the later half of the season in terms of run blocking. And especially if they're able to get him the ball, that's going to open up windows for Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Goodwin, Cole Kmet, Riley Ridley. It's going to be a variety of guys that's going to have the opportunity to do something special with the Chicago Bears this season if David Montgomery is able to run the ball. And especially the most important thing is being, of course, having competent quarterback play. But we will see how that turns out this season. But like I said before, people, and I'm going to say it again, this is JONETH PIPTNE, and I'm bringing it back to you with another podcast. Just tune in for future podcasts in the future and continue to hit that like and subscribe button and keep hearing your news about our Chicago Bears football team. All right, people. Peace out and see you later.
Gonna pitch your spine on the other side. It come out your lip. You heard what I said. I ain't even off a jigger. This shit get different.